Oh boy, we're gonna have some fun today, everybody. Yep, that's what we're gonna have. We're gonna have super fun today. Uh, Welcome everybody. Welcome to the show. This is the Dr. Pat Show's Talk Radio to Thrive By. This is where we get to like do a whole lot of talking, mostly positive, but every once in a while, Benny, I get off on a thing, don't I?
You do? That's okay. I'll ring you back in.
It's true. You do. It is so true. But it's not today. Today is, I think, one of the most powerful conversations we've had on air. And let me tell you why. When I first started this, it was an unusual thing for me to meet the people that I was meeting. And one such person had to do with angels. And I remember and I remember this. It was like, what? What? There's a message for me? Then I got the message, and the message I got in 2004 saved my life. So I never, ever, 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 ever question when somebody says, I have a message from your angels for you. Joining me here today is the host of Message Delivery by Lisa Ann. You can't make this stuff up. Let me just tell you a little bit, because I get to hang out with our hosts. I mean, that's like the coolest thing on the planet. But let me just say a few things here for a minute. When you're given a gift, when the gift is there and you realize it, you can either do one of several things. You could take it out into the world. You could not take it out into the world. You could think about taking it out into the world. You can be in complete discomfort because you have not taken it out into the world. Or then you could just be like, I'm all in. Yeah, Lisa's all in. She is a messenger for spirit. And what is it that she does? Exactly what I just said. She relays what she's directed to tell you. How it's given to her, you're going to hear about today. I don't think she's going to tell you, well, I dialed 950-9500 to get spirit. That's what I do. I don't know. But today, it's about light and love. It's about not only what she does to help people, it's about how she is now taking it out into the world with her fabulous show. And just so you know, this is about spirit. This is about spirit path. This is about getting questions and answers in the same breath. This is about joining in on festivals and doing things that are important so people know that you have a gift. This is basically being all in to be the deliverer of messages. Lisa, and great to have you here.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, look at this is my question for you. Probably going to take your answer is probably going to take the rest of the segment. But I just gave people a brief idea of you today. But I want to know what challenges and what obstacles did you have to overcome to get you to this very moment, this conversation, this very moment, all of those things where you had to say, I am going to stand in my Lisa isms.
Well, quite honestly, as much as I want to say that there was, a notification in my mailbox that said, guess what, this is what you're doing. I have another career that I had been doing forever and ever. And, I just tried to restart that up in a different area. And I physically felt ill. There was so much resistance. And I knew I was supposed to be doing this, and I was really trying to play it my way. And like anything, when you try doing stuff and suddenly you start getting resistance, and I was feeling ill, I literally, parts of my hair were falling out. I mean, the stress level got so high because I had to go to work, but it was something I loved doing. But I love doing this more. And I just took the opportunity and I said, you know what, if there's ever a time, I'm going to be one of those success stories about how I left the corporate world, and I get to help people in a different way. And I'm really excited about doing that because I keep hearing stories back about how I've helped people. And that just warms my heart.
It's funny. It's a little bit funny. The feeling inside. Uh-oh, Benny. Go find that song. It is funny because you and I had the same message. I didn't think, just like you, that this was the way that I was supposed to do it. I
Right.
really didn't. I mean, my path was go to school, go to more school for 10 years, get the corporate job, make money, retire. I don't know. But here we are.
It's what we're supposed to be doing. And there's a message that is supposed to be out there, and it's not all doom and gloom. There's so much fun and laughter. And to get people to kind of laugh, I use my own stories and my own anecdotes for the most part, because if I can laugh at me, you can laugh at me. And just to take things serious, to take the things that are serious and then maybe just put a twist on them to be a little bit more lighthearted. But there's messages to be given. And I think that we create a forum in sorts to allow people to voice and get questions answered without feeling like they can't talk to somebody about it. So,
Yeah. Here's an example. If I could just give you an example, and then I'm going to cut to the chase and let you take the reins of this. I love what you just said about it's not all gloom and doom. And, people have called me, would have been good if I combed my hair today. What don't you think? What the heck's going on up there? Um, so people have called me everything from Pollyanna Patty, right? Because of the nature of how I am doing a show. But my day doesn't always start that way. But I want to pick up on something you said. So we're looking at things going on in the world, and we're looking at the diversity elements in the world. This morning I did a 15-minute interview, if you can believe that I can just talk for only 15 minutes, with a woman named Raj Register, and she came and was talking about the Essence Festival and how it's going viral. Now, this is about a festival to uplift Black culture. This is what she's doing. And I thought about this today, and boy, she went on and she was just naming the people that are coming on. And it was about empowerment, it's about being unstoppable. Wow. That is a message that is so counter to headlines. And here's what I want to ask you about. You and I have been through the good, the bad, the ugly, and the indescribable. But me and you, we like still smiling. What the heck is keeping you smiling?
Honestly, I get up and I pray every morning, and I ask for the good angels to come find ways to make me laugh. And they do. There's just goofy stuff that happens that I just find humor in, and I find humor in myself of things that are fun. But I try to set the tone every morning. It's going to be a great day. And that is part of my prayers. Thank you. It's going to be a great day. And I try to keep it. It's not all sunshine, butterflies, unicorns, and roses all the time. But for the most part, I find things to be grateful for. And in doing so, that keeps my spirits up. And it helps to find things that are fun to laugh at. So it's what I do.
Well, let me ask you about that, because I got to ask you a question, because I really have gone back and forth. Like maybe you could say I'm like even on the fence. And, every time I say something like this, I'll get an email. They're like, really? After this many years, Pat, you're on the fence about this. You had an awakening. I believe I've had multiple awakenings, right? One awakening, I was at my lowest point when I dialed that wrong phone number. I mean, depression is an understatement right there. But I want to ask you this. Does everyone get to go through an awakening? And are they always, or mostly, I don't use it, but are they mostly when we're nearly rock bottom and we're watching people and other things crawling out from under the rock? Do they have to be like that?
I don't think so. I think it's just when you're ready to open your mind and try to believe the unbelievable. I think that really, when you start embracing that side, I don't think you have to hit rock bottom. I was just having a conversation with a girlfriend of mine this morning, and she just gets all sorts of messages. So we converse about woo-woo stuff. And she said that. She said, I don't have any big sob story. And I said, well, honestly, I don't really feel that mine's a huge sob story either. But it's amazing that when you actually stop and go, okay, these coincidences cannot be that consistent. When you know that you've evoked something that is a strong desire and it manifests, how did that happen? When you prayed for something and it came about, how does that happen? And when you stop questioning and swiping it under the table, going, oh, it's just another coincidence, you have to believe. And the more you open yourself up to believe, the more it comes in. And I think we're all born with it. It's just we get compartmentalized in school and what we are supposed to do and all the testing. And it's about surviving versus just enjoying and being still. And it's not always easy to be still. I am the first person to bring that up. It is not easy. When I sit there and meditate, I have such squirrel mentality. I have to reel myself back in because my mind's going a mile a minute. But it does happen. And you can get to that point where you say, this is my gift to myself, to take the world off my shoulders for 15 minutes, meditate, get centered, agree it's going to be a great day, and then move on, because you don't have to have something horrible and detrimental every 5 minutes for you to believe.
One of the things that I want to talk about around this is the dots. When we come back, I want to talk about the dots. So what do I mean by the dots? This is where you're going to talk with us. Look, you and I are kind of alike in a lot of ways. Jack of all trades, mastering as I go. But the dots are the key. And when we come back, I want to talk about the dots. I grew up in New York, New Jersey, and we have something called a diner. Like you go to a diner and you eat. It's a place you go to eat. They're all over Jersey, right? It's like a thing. I don't know if they have them in other places, but I know Jersey, Pennsylvania, they're diners.
Right.
And every diner you go into and you sit down, there is the dots that you have to connect. And they're supposed to be for kids. But inevitably, every time I will attempt to connect the dots. Why is connecting the dots part of mastering as I go? We're going to hear, I'm not going to answer that question. That is for Lisa Ann. Let's take a short break, everybody. This is the host. Lisa Ann is the host. Message delivery. You can't make this stuff up. Short break. When we come back, you're going to hear about our show. You're also going to hear about some of the upcoming events. And more importantly, how do you master as you go? Stay tuned. We'll be right back. This is one of the most important lessons I am having right now in my life. It is about the messages we get and what it takes to listen to them and then do what it says you're going to do with them. That is really, thing one over here is, oh, yeah. Wow, yeah. Okay, I'm not going to make that left today. I'm going to just go this direction. That's like a little message. And then you do. And then you hear on the headlines, 12-car backup on the 405. Oh, boy, am I lucky. No. Today, let's talk about what it means as you master as you go. But before we do that, I would love for you to let folks know about your show, about you, and about what you're doing here coming up in August.
Well, my name is Lisa Ann, and I'm a psychic medium channeler. I am also the mother of 2 young men, and I am a grandmother to be. I am so excited. And I won't be officially a grandmother until next year, but my show is Message Delivery. You can't make this stuff up. There's just been so many really cool things that have happened in my life, and I think in other people's lives too, but I'm just bringing it to the forefront. So just try to take a very lighthearted look and talk about what what's out there, learn a little bit about it, kind of maybe a one-stop shop of a little bit of this and a little bit of that, just to plant the seed so that you might have an interest and go, you know what, I can do that. Or I didn't know that's what it was called. And therefore, maybe evoke some more interest in the subject for you to help push you in the right direction. I think we're all born with gifts. It's just which one is your superpower. So that's what my show is about. We're just trying to make it lighthearted and fun and an easy way to learn and discuss. And I'm going to bring in some different elements of different mediums of sorts where, numerology, psychometry, things of that nature. And that way people can maybe learn a little bit in a moment where, you might not have time to do all the Googling or didn't even know that word existed to know about it. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. When we do the do, definitely not this do today, but when we do the do, tend to get more do to do. So
Yes.
when we do the do, we tend to get more do to do. Now, what do I mean by that? Let me just break that down for my experience, because this is about the idea of mastering as I go, or you said mastering as you go. One of the things that I love is, and I had a meeting this morning with both Zach and Olivia, because what I realized is I have to learn things. I mean, I just didn't wake up one day and here I am doing this. I take at least 2 to 3 tutorials every week about the field and the industry I'm in, or I read articles because I don't know what I don't know on how to make this a better experience for all of you and all of our listeners. So I learn. But sometimes we think learning is only for things that you could put your fingertips on, like geometry or algebra. Well, I take that back. You cannot put your finger on those, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
Tell us about this path, this mastering as I go, that had to do with your um, absolute evolution.
Well, there's a lot of things that when you say the word metaphysical, there are so many things. It's a master umbrella of a word, but then there's all these different elements that come into play and there's some things that are more common fodder where you talk and people go ESP. Okay, well, we know what that is. But there's so many different elements of it and there's so many different individual takes on it. So my goal is to introduce myself to something new. If somebody mentions it and I go, you know what, I didn't know that I could do that. And then I try and then I did. And I'm like, holy cow, that's really neat. And there's still so much more to learn. But I've learned that I really have a lot more gifts than what I even knew about. At one point you just say, well, I know something. And now I'm going, holy cow, I knew this, 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 and this. And now there's even more opening up to me. So I'm learning, I'm taking classes all the time. I am training with people. I'm not a catch-all be-all. I am in the trenches learning, and I am excited to learn what I learn. And in doing so, I can be a teacher as well, to maybe explain it in a way that helps somebody else understand it, that holds their hand and puts them on the path so that they could learn more as well.
Yeah, and that's part of the conversation today, because I discovered that, there was something that was calling me forward. And this is really what I want to ask you about. There was something that was calling me forward. And Benny will tell you, I mean, we have fun and yet do powerful things. We do both because humor is part of it. I want to ask you, how does your lighthearted energy and humor direct your purpose and path?
Well, I think what it is for me is, you can have somebody sit you down and lecture you, but you're not going to receive it the most. But if somebody's telling you a few jokes along the way, and not necessarily making fun, but just making it fun, to learn, then you're going to remember it more because it was something fun and it felt good for you to receive the message. And that's my goal, is to make sure that, there's funny stories or anecdotes, or you got to hear this one. Those are those things. You can't make this stuff up, and it's unbelievable, but it's memorable, where people are going to go, you know what? I got to tell you this story that I heard because it was so great, but you got to hear it. This was the punchline. And that makes you remember it. And if the message can get passed on to somebody else, it may be third down the line, but you know what? That's the person that the end result was supposed to be, for them to get that message, for them to open that door up. And that's my goal. I just want to have some fun, and try to take something that is serious, but make a little bit of enjoyment out of learning about it and understanding it and explaining what's gone on, at least for me. And you know what? When you start opening it up, everybody's got a story. And it's so amazing. So I give that opportunity to hear other people's stories as well as relaying my own.
I never thought that there would be interesting and humorous ways to look at spirit guides, I mean, really, right? You know what I'm saying? But then I did. I mean, then somewhere along the way, I actually started to learn and understand more. But more importantly, and this is really what I want to talk with you about, is that this could become a way of life for us. See, if we learn this, right? If we learned with this, there is a flow that happens. Tell me about how you see flow in the realm that you work in and in the people that you work with.
Well, for the most part, you can be out in public, and I'm a big advocate for signs. Your angels and loved ones are talking to you all the time. They're there helping and directing. So I have learned about just being out in public and seeing funny things that are humorous, and that's the flow. It's not just sitting down, it's not sitting and sitting still and always doing a ritual. It's actually being out and seeing how the messages are just being given to you just from a sheer thought, and suddenly the answers are being put in front of you left and right, and it's the sign. So that makes it fun. But in knowing and listening to, audibly what I hear, that helps to answer questions for people. It knows when to speak up. It's knowing when to be quiet because somebody just needs to be heard. So it flows in everyday life. It doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing. If you tap in and tune in, you certainly can get a lot of information that is helpful to you. Although you don't get all the answers, I wish I did, but you do get most of them. And that, just knowing and having faith that that knowing and that nudge was the right direction. Like you said, going down a different street avoided a lot of different issues for you just on the pathway. But maybe directing you is, you are supposed to go someplace else. And that is to give you a message of some sort or to introduce you to people. And when you look at the big picture and you actually stand back and you go, I would have never gotten to this location and met those people who opened doors for me or introduced me to the right people if this didn't happen. So, like, for example, when I had first moved to the area, I got a flat tire. I went to one place literally across the street. There was a nail in my tire, and I had sat there eating lunch going, I really like this place. If this is the right place for me, I want you to show me a sunflower, please. And I had no idea where I would see one. I go out, of course, my tire's turned. I see that I have a tire. I can't get on the road until I get it fixed. The one tire place didn't have the right tools. I got on the phone, coincidentally called another place. They said, you're only a few miles down the road. Come on down. I go into the tire store. No lie, I'm standing there talking. They said, just give us a few minutes. They put me right up there in front, and I stood there, popped a piece of gum on my mouth, turned around, and no sooner than I had turned around was a mural on the back wall of a woman holding a sunflower in a basket. It was the entire mural on the wall. Now, again, a sunflower in a tire store. What do those two have to do with each other? They don't. But again, that's where connecting the dots, moving forward, and you go, holy cow, you can't make this stuff up. I took a picture of it. I mean, I wrote a blog entry on it. It was great. But those are those kind of things that connecting the dots and just being open to understanding what you're getting and what it means. And if you don't question it, it's okay. Question, ask the questions, and then see what kind of answers you get.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this more when we come back. We're going to talk story about you can't make this stuff up story, because this is really, if we can figure this out, right, then we will become more aware, and it won't be like, what? You mean that you know Jim?
Right.
And I just applied at Jim's company?
Yes.
What? Yeah, let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Lots to talk about. Hey, do you have like a you can't make this up stuff up story? Hey, if you want to share it, 1-800-930-2819. We'll be right back. Yeah, Benny, thank you. Telling you, that brought me back a few years. Welcome back, welcome back to the Dr. Pat Show. This is Talk Radio to Thrive. I have got the host of Message Delivery, and this is Lisa Ann. You can't make this stuff up. Look, I want everybody to know about what Lisa Ann is up to, what she's doing, a radio show, because it is awesome, awesome, awesome. I'm so thrilled. Right here on Transformation Talk Radio, for those of you that are wondering. Before we go ahead and we talk about examples of you can't make this stuff up. And as I said before, I don't know if you all have something like that where, you like called it luck or serendipity, but man, do you call it like you can't make this stuff up? You just can't. How do people find out about you?
Well, there's a couple of ways. You can actually go to my website, which is angelmessages2u.com, and that's the number 2 and the letter u.com. You can also reach me at 919-744-9691. I'm also on Facebook, Lisa Ann, and Twitter, and also Instagram. So I'm out there, and I do a card of the day. So people can get a message. Maybe it'll be an inspiration for them or something that they just need to think about. But I wait and see what I'm told to tell you. So I channel the information and put it out there. But if you have an interest, you're always welcome to contact me. And if you were looking for a reading, I'd be happy to do that for you too.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. And to listen to Lisa Ann's show, you can go to transformationtalkradio.com for sure. Let's talk about the stuff that we can't make up. I mean, I think it's important we share these stories, because they're stories that when you think about them, most people reference them as luck or, wow, honestly, how did that even happen to you? But there's no conversation about the fact that we can literally make this stuff up and happen. So part of what you're doing in your show is you're going to be sharing stories and experiences with this. And I think that's key, because people, that's relatable. It's relatable.
Definitely. It's one of those things where you something happens and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, you got to tell 4 people, because you couldn't make it up. You couldn't orchestrate it. You couldn't think it through enough that suddenly it would happen. So I've got a bunch of examples, but I had one example where my girlfriend and I were sitting in the car, and she and I were just talking back and forth, and suddenly there was a question that she answered, or that she had asked, and it was one of those ask the universe questions. And suddenly her radio in her car turns on. The exact answer came on the radio at that exact moment and then turned back off. We laughed so hard because we knew you can't make this stuff up. It was so funny. Kathy and I laughed and laughed and laughed. We're like, did you hear that? Did that just happen? And we both are believers, so we knew it did, but it's one of those things. If you said, okay, I'm going to put a camera on it and ta-da, it happens, it doesn't. It's spontaneous, it's serendipity, it's, these just things get orchestrated in the most unique ways, and it's so fun when they happen because it makes you understand that there is something bigger going on than just you right there at that moment. And when you get that theory going, you're like, wow, what is the big picture?
Yeah. I mean, we talk about this, but I want to go back to this other thing you say, right? Where it's almost as if somebody would say, okay, so if somebody would have said to me 5 years ago, this is an example because I thought about this a lot. If somebody would have said to me 5 years ago, here I am doing the show, launching Transformation Talk Radio, right? Where if somebody said, Pat, stay tuned, you're going to be in a music video with the people's sexiest man alive. What? And if they'd have said that, right? It's not believable. It's not believable. But if they'd have said, Pat, you're going to do a series of things in a 10-year period, like hiring somebody for the job, treating them really well, helping them launch their career. And that person is going to remember that. And when that person is in the media arena, thinks of you to come down and be part of a music video. That makes more sense, but it's still not quite believable. But sometimes we'll blow off the bigger picture because there's no evidence of it. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like there's no evidence of it. And I will tell you that one of the greatest challenges for me in my life is not going with the flow. I could go with the flow. Like actually, I think Linda and Jessica will tell you almost to a fault. But I can go with the flow. What stops me from going with the flow and then acting? Not fear. It's not a fear. I doubt myself. I somehow in a past life, I must have got the big D on my forehead. But this is what I want to talk about, because if we could share some stories, then maybe the expression of them will say to folks, wait a minute, this is happening in your life every day. You just don't see it. What do you make of that?
Well, I think there's a sense of wonderment that has to go along with it. And I actually have had to really impose upon myself to go with the flow. The magic happens when you let go. I know at times I'm not good at letting go. So I'm a scuba diver. And one of the things that we do is called drift diving. And if anybody else scuba dives, you seriously just let the current take you. You're going to go whether you like it or not. You can try swimming backwards and fighting it and doing it your way. Ultimately, if it's meant to be, you're going to go back the other way. So that's been my mantra of just letting go and doing that. But there's so much to be learned when you realize that you're not always in control, even though we like to think we are. But letting the universe and the angels and your guardians put things in place so that you will see them, so that you line up with them, so that you have an effect on people. Just a kind word, a smile. Sometimes it's just making it your goal. I'm going to make sure I smile and say hi to 5 different people on the way in. And you don't know what that one gift gave somebody who was needing it, but just putting you in place where all of those things line up. And it is just letting go and letting life happen. And there are things you want to jump in and say, nope, it's going to be my way. And sometimes it works out. And then the other times you get your hand slapped and it's like, no, it didn't work out that way. So it works.
What? Not hand slap.
That's what I call it.
Yeah, I think it's good. It's like if I paid attention to the hand slapping, I honestly could have saved myself a lot of grief.
Right.
But yeah, but this is what the work that you do is to help people understand that there are messages all the time. Some of them are little warning signs. It's like beep, beep, beep. There's a little beep, beep, beep. It's like when the battery or your smoke detector goes out. like, your smoke detector battery, like when it
Yes.
goes beep. Right now, I got a fiber Verizon box that's beeping because my battery is like dead. So it's beeping and it's telling me you've got to replace this. This is important for you to replace this backup battery.
Right.
Now, what happens if I don't replace it? Because I have not replaced it yet. Oopsie, right? Well, there's going to be something that happens, and it won't be just a beep, 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 right?
Right.
It will be, in this case, I will need that internet connection on a day to do the show because my other internet is out, and I will need it like breathing to do my show. And oh, it's not working. Call them. Oh, were you supposed to replace the battery? Oh, yeah. Oh, you didn't. Right. And
Yep.
then it could get even more complicated and worse than that. Tell us about, in the work you do, let's talk about how, and I think I'm going to go ahead and skip this break. Let's talk about how we take the scope of things and really stop to acknowledge that thing in front of us.
Well, I think when you have to stop. I was watching actually the other evening. There was a show on Netflix and it's called Magnificent. And it was extreme sports. Now, I am not an adrenaline junkie, but I have done some things that would make somebody go, yeah, I'm not really convinced of that. But anyway, um, but ultimately, what made me look at the entire process of what these people were going through was the picture view from the drone that was videotaping them.
I
And
know.
I stopped and I looked, and it's the same feeling that I have gotten when I've been at a beach. And you look at the vast amount of water and you look how big it is, and you realize how small you are. And it's humbling. And again, this show Magnificent was actually just so overwhelming to me when they had helicopters that were videotaping skiers up on the mountains and how magnificent these mountains were and how truly I'm looking at this and I started zooming in, zooming in, zooming in, zooming in. And I'm like, okay, if I have a hangnail and I'm looking at it from the top of a mountain, how big is that? Is it really that big? How small of a piece of the puzzle am I when you look at that huge picture? But you know what? That effort stands for something, and that is a stepping stone for anybody. But it really is humbling when you stop and look at how big. I mean, when you're in an airplane, and the higher you go, the more you look down, you look like an ant. And then you kind of question, are we all just ants in this project of life? You never know. But it makes you stop to say, this is the direction I'm going. And there is a purpose and there is a design for what I'm doing. And it may be a stepping stone for you or for somebody else. So,
Yeah, I had a dose of this. I told you, I don't think I said this on air, but right in 2 rooms over, they're putting in carpeting. I happen to live in the most beautiful apartment in my friend's house, and they took me in back in '09 when my relationship ended and I was at the worst of the worst in healing my illness. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I mean, it was like, okay, you're gone. And where am I going? And my buddies just so happened, ready for it, ready for it. Beautiful place in Bothell. Oh, you're not going to believe this. ... is moving out. What? Now, do you know I hesitated a month?
shame on you.
I know, I know. I could feel it in my gut. I hesitated a month, and my ex said to me, "Hey, Melanie has got the apartment." That was it. Thanksgiving, I'm like, "Okay, let's get to I'm doing it." But I hesitated a month. Now, that's how you know something is so right for you, when even after hesitating a month, right? Because I was really emotionally like, but hesitating a month. They held it for me. It was held for me. And then I moved in and I never looked back. So, long story short, why are we putting in carpeting? Because my buddies upstairs care so much. They're like, we're doing our carpeting, and oh, there may be this almost, we can put it down here, right? But I almost didn't take this apartment in front of me a month. And I say, thank you. Thank you, God. Thank you, universe. I mean, that's like it.
Right.
How often does that happen for us? And the universe doesn't turn its back. I don't believe this. So maybe you got to help me.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up, that your friends stepped in. I actually have a practice group that I run here, and it's just a bunch of people that have woo-woo powers, and we practice on each other. It's a free, open area that you can talk about it.
Ooh.
Say, how does this work? Does anybody else have any experience? But one of the coolest things about this is that not only is our practice group supportive and helpful to each other, because we can give each other some honest feedback or share our own experiences, but it is the coolest thing in the world that when you're in that mental state, you can't even think straight because your emotions are taking over and you feel overwhelmed by something else. No lie, they will call and say, Spirit told me to call you. What's going on?
Yeah.
I am being told, I'm getting a download. I'm supposed to tell you blank, blank, blank. It's for your good and you're supposed to do it. And sometimes when you hear it like that, because you can't see the forest because of the trees, you've got this tunnel vision on. So that's spirit working around you to make sure that you get the message. For some reason, you didn't feel that apartment was good for you, or it didn't line up, or you were just so blocked in some other area that you
I
couldn't
couldn't.
you
I couldn't even
couldn't
think about it.
receive it. You
Yeah.
couldn't receive it and see
No.
it for the gift that it was.
No.
But that's where sometimes I think, your spirit guides and your angels actually step in to make sure that you get that message, even though you're not listening to the obvious signs saying, like for you, Dr. Pat, guess what? Here's a whole apartment for you. And you're like, I don't, what, squirrel? So then your friend's calling you up going, take the apartment. And that's what I think, we're all instruments in the big picture. And that's what we do for other people. We
Yeah.
just don't know it until sometime they tell their story about, you can't make this stuff up. I was lost, but you know what? You called at the right moment. You had no idea what was going on with me, but you talked me off the ledge. You got me to refocus. You got me to appreciate, you told me that you had something going on that was 10 times worse than what I had going on. And it made me stop and go, really? Do I have to whine about this? It's not that bad. But that's how we're all put in place serendipitously, and that allows us to enhance each other's lives. So your friends did it. My friends do it all the time. I love them to death. When you can't see the forest because of the trees, somebody's going to step in, and that's getting the message. And that's the stuff you can't make up. When that coincidence happens, you go, holy cow, that's awesome.
Well, here's the kicker. Ready? So when I was only doing my show, I go into the studio with Benny, right? But when we launched Transformation Talk Radio, that's a whole nother network. That's like a gazillion hosts. That's like our technology that runs everything and producers that have to come in. Where is that going to happen? Well, my buddies, we're actually zoned here that you could run a business from your home. Whoa. Now, this is a 1,200 square foot thing in their home, right? I think 1,200 plus. It has a separate room over on the other end. I'm telling you, I was like, man, I put some desks in there. We put the software in there, and I had 2 producers in there at one time, including the woman that worked with me that said, come down and be in this music video with John Legend and his nephew in that room with her children. So here we are, they're in the room, interns, right? I just, all of a sudden, we're getting interns in a room because I wasn't capable of getting like office space. Are you kidding? But you can't make that stuff up.
Nope.
Now our studios are in Montlake Terrace. We have built, studios where Zach is sitting actually in Montlake Terrace. But for years in here, Jessica started as an intern in here. Now Jessica is our executive over everything that goes on. But you can't make that stuff up.
No, and you were put in their path to help Jessica and other people, and your staff is great. They were put in your path to let, and it just all lines up, but you can't see a lot of it until you look back. Sometimes you can, but you can't see a lot. And I had an example once. I was pregnant with my second child, and this goes back years. I went to a seminar that it was in California, and one of the things they talked about is, paying attention, looking for the signs, etc. And I got on the airplane, and they said specifically, we need one person to bump off this plane. You're just going to go 2 hours later. And I was like, no, I can't inconvenience everybody. And I got home, and there was no reason that I could not have actually stayed 2 more hours and gone on a different flight. But the gift of getting 2 free round trip airplane tickets was the gift to change because somebody else needed that space to get home to their loved one. And that alone was, when I look back at that was a slap on the hand, because I realized that there really was no reason that I couldn't do that. But that was my angels saying, you know what? If you do this for us, we're going to give you a gift, and that's going to help you forward to take more vacations or do other things. And that's where your, being in alignment with other people, and my alignment being with other people, if nothing else, it might put them in the right path. And that's planting the seed. And you know what? You don't pull the weeds up on a plant to see if it's growing yet. You wait until you see it happen. And that's sometimes looking back at it. And that's what you're supposed to do. It's not always easy, but for the most part, when you look back, you go, oh, that's why. And those are those lessons, and you start recognizing them. And all of a sudden, it lines up even more so. And that's where you believe going forward that you don't have to look back so much. And that's that faith that you are here for a reason. And, when I am gifting people information, they're like, I didn't know that. I would have never thought of it like that. Well, I'm supposed to tell you. That's what they're telling me to tell you. And when I tell you those things, because I am being a channel to give you that message, it's supposed to put you on the right path. So you don't have to wait until you look back to see if you got your hand slapped or not. And it's just amazing. So, your friends putting you in line with everything, and you've been in line for other people. So,
yeah. Wow. Thank you so much, Lisa Ann. What a great show. Last question. We're done for today or for the moment, but I'm telling you, you're going to want to listen to Lisa Ann. Thank you so much. Personal message. What do you want to leave us with? And again, tell people your website.
Well, my personal message I think I'm going to leave is, you know what? You can't make it up. Life is short. Enjoy the moments, smell the roses, but have some fun, because there's so many other reasons in life to not be happy, but find the ones that you can be happy about. But again, my show is on Thursdays at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern, the first and third Thursday. And if you want to reach me, it's angelmessages2u.com. And that's angelmessages, the number 2, the letter u.com. You can also catch me on Facebook under Lisa Ann or Angel Messages, and also Instagram, and also Twitter. And I look forward to talking with you.
I love it, everybody. Guess what? We got another hour coming up. Thank you, Lisa Ann. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Benny. We'll see you in a minute.
Thank you.